so before we move on to our next round of colour blocking using our Pablos, I want to use this little tool that I've acquired from my husband, who paints, I call it dolly painting, but it's his Warhammer models. It's a stippling brush, so it's a really, I've had brushes before, but I've cut them down, so it's like a scrubbing brush, or a scrubber. So it's used for stippling on when he works on his dollies. But basically it's a really stiff bristle brush, cut really short, and it will push. What I want to do is just come in, because you saw where I was doing the eyes that my pigment was catching. The dough weren't drawn brilliant, but they kind of sit on the surface of the pastel mat a little bit. So I want to push that down with a tool before I come in with my pencils, and otherwise I need my pencils to push them down. I don't want to use too much pressure on my pencils. So I just want to come in first of all, and you need to hold it quite upright, but I'm going to just come in and just push some of this pigment, and it will lift a little bit off, but I want to use it just to push the pigment down into the surface of the pastel mat. So you should be able to see there how lovely and smooth that side has instantly become. Let me zoom in. You can see on the left hand side that it's still really grainy, and on the right hand side I've pushed it down into the surface. So I'm just going to have another piece of pastel mat off to one side to clean off if I need to. So what I'll do, I'm just going to come in again over the top of that area with another layer of the Derwent drawing. Okay, and now you can see the difference between the two sides. I'm going to come in once more. Just going to use the brush to push that pigment down. And we're going to do this all over, and it will create a lovely, lovely soft effect. So I'm going to work the head area first. I'm going to work the light areas first as well, so I don't tarnish up my brush too much and get it too dirty too quickly. So this is going to push pigment down into your initial stencil lines, indentation lines. So you can see it's lifting off a tiny bit of pigment, but I'm pushing that back down, so we're not, it might lift a little bit off on the, I'll show you here. There's not a huge amount being lifted off. Most of it is being pushed down into the paper. So this little brush is from Warhammer. I will have a look and see if I can get you some links to, I don't even know how much it's going to cost. I say I acquired it. I was given it actually. I showed Rob what I was wanting to do with it, and he said, oh, I've got something that will work like that. But instantly, look how lovely and soft that becomes. So I'll put another coat of my white over there. You could have done this earlier on if you wanted to, but I've just saved it to do it now, so I can do it in sections as I work. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out now because you know what it is I'm doing and why. I'm going to work just the white areas first, and then we'll come in and we'll do the rest of the areas. Zoom that out. Looks tiny when I zoom out. move everything up. There we go. That's just the magnets pinging. Okay, so I'm going to come into the brightest areas first. Scrub with my brush. This also gives a lovely soft effect around the outside edge, which we will utilise later on. Because what you could do is when you were putting the initial layers down, you could scrub a layer in, then put the next layer on, then scrub the next layer in, then add the next layer. Can you see it's softening there? It's starting to look even more like pastels. Come in with a coat of white over the top, and like I say, this is a really good way of filling the tooth. You're using a nice thick pigment. Like I say, the only problem is that pigment often just sits on that surface, and you need to push it in with something. And when you're working on a big space like this, you can just use your scrubber. Do that for you. And when I come in and do the brownie bits, it's going to soften even more, but you can even see this zoomed out, how well that is working. Just coming in with a little touch more of this pigment ahead of me coming in, because it isn't until you start scrubbing. So I'm teaching you all to be scrubbers in this class. I could do with a little bit more pigment in there before I start this process. So let's just get a little bit more down before I come in. And it's mixing as well. Remember, we've got greys in here, we've got all of those other lovely colours we put into that under painting. Okay, so back in there with this, with the brush. They're going to mix together, so there isn't going to be an area that's pure white at all. It's a bit weird holding this upright like this. Obviously it wasn't designed for this, but as always in art, you see a tool that's going to make your life easier and you grab it and you use it how you want to use it. So if you get it a bit dirty, piece of pastel mat, just come in, clean it off on a spare piece of pastel mat. So a little bit more pigment. We want to leave a little bit of tooth to be able to do our main pencil work over, but this is creating lovely soft fluffy fur for us, so let's embrace it. So like I say, I'm just trying to show you different ways working and speeding things up. So the fact that we've used the Derwents, the drawing, a little bit of kind of speed drawing work with our lay down of our initial underpainting as well. Now combining that with using this little tool. Move up again. I'm just going to work my way down this side and then we'll come in and do the other side. So a little bit more pigment down through here. hope I just don't make the brush fall apart, as it's not designed for this. But hopefully you can see that left-hand side, how much that is softening up now compared to over on the right-hand side. Just come in with a little bit more pigment. I just love the fact that, you know, this has just sped the whole process up so much for us. Okay, so come in across here now. You don't have to work as fast as me, but I remember earlier on when I was saying about if you work fast, it just gives a little bit of movement into your piece, a little bit of extra character. So I'm just coming in with some more pigment. Up here, a little bit in there for when we blend that out in a second. Some in through here. That's interesting. Okay, zooming in here just to show you this. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that in the centre of my core? This is my Derwent drawing pencil. And there's like a piece of dark pigment in there. I thought it was a piece that maybe I'd picked up, but I've been rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. It started coming out on my drawing, so I've been giving it a good rub on this pastel mat, and it seems to be in the actual core. It's like a piece of contaminant that's gone into the core itself. I'm hoping though, I'm going to sharpen in a second and see if I can eliminate it, but that has just gone down onto my drawing. It's still there. It's almost gone. I'm going to try and sharpen it out and see if I can make it vanish. Well, that was a little bit of a shock, right in an area that I didn't need that to happen. So I'm going to come in again and wear this pencil down. Try and cover over those areas. I really didn't need that to happen, and see as we start to wear it down whether that happens again. I don't need a huge amount of pigment to go down. It looks like... no, it looks fine there at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to carry on using that pencil and hope that problem doesn't happen again. But if it does, I will let you know. It's coming together. I've done a scan. Anybody who's watching the videos has also got the written tutorial. I've done a scan before doing this scrubbing. And I'll zoom out a little bit more. And I'll do a scan afterwards as well, so you can see the before and after effect. Let me pull that down, get it more. So you see how much it's softened up already just from doing the white parts. Just come in, add a little bit more. Nervous about that bit of pigment coming back. So a few little... see, it's really put down a dark mark in there that I didn't want. So do this as much as you feel you need to. Obviously we need some pigment, some tooth left in the paper to be going in with our other pencils, but I'm quite happy pigment's going down. I can still see the tooth, to be honest, in places anyway, so it's not a problem. I'm trying to hold back on the amount of colour that I put down in this, because I can see some purples and that coming through. It's like, no. Okay, do I want... No, I'll put some greys in. So I'm going to carry on stippling. I'm going to move up into the greyer and beiger areas now. So let's come up into the ears. And then we'll work our way through all of those light areas. Okay, so just over the brows. You see now I didn't want to work too much of the outer area of those eyes because I knew I was coming in. Let's clean that off. Right, where's it lighter? Let's do this outside edge. Clean off. Come down to this edge. Then once this is done, then you can decide whether you're going to come back in with the Derwents or whether we go on to start building and carry on with the colour blocking with our next set of pencils. But if you've got something like a fluffy, a real fluffy cat or anything fluffy to create, this is a lovely little technique to use. I haven't used it enough because I didn't have a nice brush. But this one, I'll have to buy some more of these. Well, not that I bought this one. Shh. Okay, let's get this little foot. And underneath here. So again, if you're struggling and you've done the indentation method and you're struggling to get rid of those lines, this is a brilliant way of doing it. And make sure I've been all over. You can see anyway if you haven't been somewhere because it's really, really grainy. I'm not joking, this really does look like a pastel piece. It's so lovely and soft. Just be careful up around the top of the ears, around the edges. Because obviously the ears aren't going out into fluff. We can't just expand the ears out like we can the outer edge of the fluffy fur further down. There we go. I'll come in, I haven't really got much pigment in the mouth area, but we'll just push what's there down into the tooth a little bit. But there, I think that is looking rather lovely.